What is up? Monday morning. Or Monday afternoon, excuse me. Overreaction Monday as usual. Uh, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I see a few are here joining, and I appreciate that. Thanks for joining the show. For those who come in later, thank you for joining the show as well. Thank you for watching the replay. QR code, upper right-hand corner. Scan that with your phone. Takes you right to our YouTube page. Smash the subscribe button when you're there. If you're on YouTube right now or you're on Facebook right now, on the number one place all of our material goes to is X at PB Sports Talks. YouTube is in the second position at PB Sports Talk. But like I said, you could scan that QR code right there, and that will take you right to it, and very easily just press the subscribe button, hit the notify button. That way you are connected and ready to go and are in receipt of updates as they come available. A lot more stuff coming up on YouTube, so stay tuned for that. All right, guys. So it's Monday. Let me just change that back over for a second. So it's Monday here, and I'm going to go over several things that are hot and on people's minds. Obviously, PB picks. If you've been watching over X over the weekend, red hot 22-9 run. I'll go over that in just a little bit. As you can see here, Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to play a video that I did just a few days ago about how things need to end in Baltimore, and I would trade Lamar Jackson immediately at the end of the year. I would move on from John Harbaugh, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think they can do that now, because they missed their chance. Obviously, what everybody's talking about, Notre Dame missing out to Alabama and the Miami Hurricanes. I will share my thoughts on that. Shedeur Sanders, a lot of people all excited about him tearing up a 4-22 combined record between the Raiders and Tennessee. It's kind of comical, but I will share some info about that. And then, of course, you can see Ben Johnson right there with big brother Dan Campbell just over his shoulder and watching his every move like the rest of us are. I'll talk more about Ben Johnson and the sinking ship, in my opinion, of the Chicago Bears. Yes, the sinking ship. All right, so for starters, let me pull this back up here to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on. Let me enlarge that. All right, 22-9 run between Thursday's games and Sunday's games going into yesterday. Man, I was on fire 9-2. That was Wednesday and Saturday. So went into yesterday 9-2, and then when you combine everything yesterday, total record 22-9. Had a little bit of a off night last night. You can see it on the screen there. And what I had on the lead up. Rough night for Kansas City and Houston, kind of a dud game. If you're an over player, like I like to suggest, for the most part, didn't come through. And Kansas City's offensive line is just destroyed. There's not a whole lot they can do. But 22-9 is no joke. When I get hot like this, it lasts for a while. Obviously, we have the Eagles and the Chargers tonight on Monday Night Football. Stay tuned throughout the day. I will have different updates as we go. Most likely around 5:30 or 6, I will have at least a 6-pack for you of props and picks for the Chargers and Fly Eagles Fly tonight. That should be a very good game. That's a nice matchup. I like it. And I'll share that with you later on today. I generally wait till later in the day because I like to see things develop, injuries, things like that, line movement, prop movement, etc. And then I drop it sometimes too late, to be quite honest with you. I get a little bit close. I don't give you guys enough time. So I'm going to work on that, and I'll make sure I have it out and ready. 6 o'clock. Game starts, 8:15, 8:20. So you should have plenty of time to get your action in. Please, again, if you have not, follow us on X at PB Sports Talks and smash the subscribe button at PB Sports Talk on YouTube. The QR code in the upper right-hand corner enables you to go right there and take care of that. So super hot streak. That's college and pro. The majority of those are props. PB's props are usually very strong. It's what I'm most well known for, and I'll have a bunch more for you later today. All right, so I'm going to jump into this right here. Let me put this up full on the screen. The college football playoff and the madness that's going on. Let me just put it to you. Let me put it to you this way. I am more of an NFL fan than I am a college fan. That's being totally honest with you. Obviously, I know sports. I have to know sports. I grew up on sports, not just a basketball coach, but a huge sports fan all around. Even though I was a basketball coach, I am more of a football fan than I am basketball, if that makes any sense. I know it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth. And I know basketball inside and out, obviously, to be able to teach it. But football's the same way. And college, a little bit less than pro, as I said. So I'm not going to get into all the details, right? I don't even follow it enough and study enough to understand all the minutia behind the scenes. So I'm going to talk about it in terms of what most everybody, how you talk, how you are around the water cooler and you're talking or texting with your friends and this total nonsense that's going on. Number one, obviously, Notre Dame misses out. Miami gets in. 2-loss team, Miami. 3-loss team, Alabama, and I watched the entire game on Saturday. They looked awful. Part of it is because Jam Miller, running backs, both out. That's obviously a huge drop-off in talent and the ability to have a balanced offense. I got it. But you were outplayed, outcoached, out everything again by Georgia, and you ended up losing your third game of the year. How you're in that conversation to enter in over Notre Dame is beyond me. In my opinion, Notre Dame is one of the best teams in the country right now. And I can tell you that I used to be a much bigger college football fan than I am now. I kind of got turned off by the system. And some of it is what we're talking about here. Long before the college football playoff ever came about, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and in Michigan and lived there for 53 years of my life. Just moved to Florida February of this year. Was a long time Michigan fan until Jim Harbaugh started pulling all his nonsense. And even before then, to be honest with you, although I was happy when Harbaugh came initially, the Brady Hoke experiment, the Rich Rodriguez experiment, the embarrassment of the program. But then what Harbaugh did and the way he did it and the way he acted, and year after year after year after year, getting beat. They lost me as a fan, and I still haven't returned, and I doubt this is the football program. I doubt that I will, and they're kind of a mess in a different way. That's a topic for another day. But one of the things growing up that I used to always be upset, this is, again, pre-playoff time, when everybody, including myself, was screaming from the rooftops, need a playoff, need a playoff, need a playoff. Look at March Madness. Why can't the college football season be like that? Okay, so we ended up getting it, obviously. And there is no real fix to it all. But back in that day, Michigan used to always play Notre Dame, basically the second game of the year, speaking of. And it was like if you lost that game, your season was over. No matter what you did the rest of the year, unless everybody had one loss, you were finished. Anybody who had no losses, who finished the season undefeated, was clearly ahead of you, and you had no chance. So that really stunk. I am a believer it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Obviously, I have that mentality as a coach. There are times when I coached a team, and we were, every time, really, we were never as good in the beginning as we were in the end. And I wish there was some sort of system that was flawless and that seamless, as is really the better word, where you could have the teams that are playing best at the end, and you don't have to rely on a head-to-head matchup that is like 90 days ago. Who gives a care, to say that nicely, what happened in the Miami and Notre Dame game 90 days ago in a 3-point game? Who cares? Who's the better team right now? I'm not a Notre Dame like fan. I'm a huge Marcus Freeman fan, to be honest with you, but I'm not a Notre Dame fan by nature. As a matter of fact, I grew up hating Notre Dame because of the Michigan and Notre Dame rivalry. But the truth is the truth. And I've watched a lot of Miami. I've watched a lot of Notre Dame. Miami's a mess. They're inconsistent. They're not very well coached. And you're looking at Notre Dame that arguably has the best coach in college and arguably has the best player in college. They went 10-2. Yes, they're independent. A lot of people don't like that about them. Go get into a conference and all this and this and this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I can't wait to get into another part of this in a few minutes. And I have a note here to make sure I don't forget, because I gotta cover this. Notre Dame is a better football team right now than Alabama and Miami. You can put them both, either one of the Bama and Miami, against Notre Dame right now on some street yard, in the parking lot, or wherever. And I'm just going to give it to you real. Notre Dame will kick their ass. Either one of those teams. And it's sad that we as fans don't get a chance to see Notre Dame in this playoff. Again, people say, oh, some guy sent me some message. They're not martyrs. Go enter a conference. They're whining like usual. This has nothing to do with as usual. This has nothing to do with in the past. It's just if you're honest and you're objective, you take your homer hat off and you just call it what it is. Notre Dame's the better football team than either of those two. Then you want to take it a step further and you want to say, okay, James Madison and Tulane are in, and Notre Dame sitting on the outside looking in. Vanderbilt sitting on the outside looking in. You think to yourself, how in the world is that even possible? How, in what world does that make sense? Now, you want to take care of the little guy. I got it. I understand the thought process behind it, but it's not realistic. And here's the truth. And this is whether you had the 14 playoff, which I was not a fan of. I have always been a fan of a 16-team playoff, but I'll accept the 12. If you have 4, or you have 12, or you have 16, there's always going to be somebody left out. It may not be to this type of degree, but it's going to happen. Look at March Madness. There's bubble teams and there's teams that get left out, and there's a yearly argument leading up to, during, and after. We should have been there. See, look what happened. Oh, this, oh, that, or the 65, the 65th team gets in there. We should be in there. Why aren't we in there? We could do damage. It will be argued forever. Doesn't matter how many teams the playoff is. This one's pretty egregious. So let me just take the pro football context here for a moment. And I wish it could be like this in college. It's obviously not, but I wish it could be. So I'm a big Detroit Lions guy from Detroit. You could see it on the back. If you don't know me, huge Lions fan. So you have Green Bay that beat the Lions twice. No matter what we think, no matter what we say about Green Bay, we had 2 shots and they beat us both times. First game of the year, and then just on Thanksgiving, whatever it is, 2 weeks ago. Spread out by what? 10 weeks or so. You have a body of work over the course of a year where if you lost the first game, opening game, and 10th week or 11th week, whatever it was, and you had a chance to redeem yourself, you didn't. So no matter what happens the rest of the way, and it's not going to happen, but if you were some possible way in a tiebreaker, you have nothing to say. You got beat twice, take your ball and go home. Guys, we cannot say that in this particular case. Notre Dame and Miami played once 90 days ago. A lot has happened in 90 days. People want to say, oh, they played Pittsburgh. Oh, they played Navy. Oh, they played this team. Oh, they played that team. Dude, they played Texas A&M. They played Miami. Come on now. Let's be honest. Let's be real here. Here's the real truth that's going on. In my opinion, this is political. This is 100%. This is sports politics at its finest. And I just found this out right before I went on air. I didn't even know this. As I was seeing the quote from the ND AD, the Miami and Notre Dame game was replayed 10 times on the ACC network, I think it was, in the 5 days or so leading up to the weekend. There's no question that ESPN and the SEC are together in cahoots. And there's no doubt that a lot of people want Notre Dame to enter into a conference. And I think that they think that doing something like this is going to force their hand to do it. Well, here's what I'm here to say. Notre Dame is arguably the biggest brand in college football. Whether you like them or you don't like them, it is a massive brand. And now that they have Marcus Freeman, and full and total respectability is back to that program on a national level, and it's not going anywhere, and I don't think he's going anywhere. Now they are in a stronger position than they have ever been. Now you just went to war with them. And now the AD, and I believe it's 22 or 24, other sports participate in the ACC. And he said, Pete Bavacqua, said it is permanent damage. Permanent. They didn't like they didn't like the way that they were treated. Kind of hard to argue. So they're independent in football. They're not independent in other sports. And look I would say the same thing if it was Alabama. This has nothing to do with it being Notre Dame, by the way. I got to say it. If it was Miami, if it was whoever, Oklahoma, I don't care who the team is. It cannot function like this. And I'll be honest, I don't know the fix. Honestly, you could say, okay, Bama, you lost 3 games and you shouldn't be in there. We're going to put both Miami and we're going to put Notre Dame in. You're the oddball out. Okay, then you got Vanderbilt. There's no exact seamless way to make this work without some sort of blowback. This one is large. It's who the school is. It's how they have played. It's when they played against the team who got in over them. And, people say, well, head-to-head matters. If it doesn't matter, why do you play the game? Well, I hear what you're saying. But the result 90 days ago and what the result would be now are two completely different things. There's injuries that happen. There's growth in teams. There's regression. There's improvement. There's all sorts of things. So we're going to judge it based on that. Or one of the two teams suddenly gets, and I'm going to talk about the Chicago Bears in a minute, suddenly gets this whole row of teams where everything went wrong with those teams and it just fell right. And then they go into some playoff. It happens in basketball. It happens in the NFL playoffs. And then they just get blasted. See the Pittsburgh Steelers for that one. So it's a really, really tough fix. And I don't know if there is one. So it's all over social. It was all day long yesterday. And as part of what I do, I have to monitor that all day. I don't have the girl's name. I should have wrote it down. I don't have her name in front of me. But she does reporting for ESPN. And she comes out and she says, and then she's not the only one, in fairness to her. There were many. This is how you treat your players. And this is the memory that they're going to have. And this and this and this. And this is how you take your ball and you go home, but you're doing it pouting. And you're going to withdraw from a bowl game. Hello? Couple of things. Number one, The team voted on it. The captains were consulted by Marcus Freeman, and they had an in-depth conversation as to their input on how they wanted to proceed. No one has, and not even the coach, by the way. As a longtime coach, I'm telling you that we as a coach have the pulse of every single player, but no one has the pulse of the players like their fellow players. The captains were asked, how do you feel about this? What do you believe that we should do? What would you guys like to do? They gave their opinion. They're disappointed. And they talked to a lot of the different guys. And we're in a different era now. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I didn't like it when it started to happen, where guys withdraw from bowl games. This is pre-playoffs. Guys were starting to protect them. Both Bosa's did it, I think. They were one of the first, if I'm not mistaken, that did that. I don't necessarily like that. Ole Miss versus Notre Dame. I'm not sure what you're saying there. You're saying it should be Ole Miss versus Notre Dame, Mr. Roll Tide. Oregon versus BYU. Those are the matchups you're suggesting that it should be. Interesting. ND should join the ACC. There's another guy. Yeah, well, I don't know. If your school had the opportunity to be independent, I think you'd consider it too. But that's just my opinion. So the players had a say in this. It isn't as if Marcus Freeman and the ADD and the administration, they all said, hey, we're just going to walk away and we're not going to the bowl game. No one wants to go to Tony the Tiger Bowl or the Pop-Tarts Bowl or the whatever else Chick-fil-A Bowl. They're not interested. And even the guys who are freshmen and sophomore, when a situation happens like this, they're not too thrilled about going to play either. And the top level players that are ready to go to the NFL and go through that process, they're not going to risk injury, so they're going to pull out anyways. And this gal and other people were so irresponsible in what it was that they were saying. There's probably not one, I don't want to speak as if I know this, but there's probably not many, if any, from Notre Dame that say, hey, I don't even know what bowl game they would go to. What are we doing? Let's go out to Orlando and play I don't know, whatever. I don't even know the names of the bowls anymore. It's so whacked out. It's so ridiculous. The Outback Bowl or whatever, Chick-fil-A Bowl, whatever it is, it doesn't mean anything. Somebody said, look what Georgia did in 2023. They got excluded and they went out and they won 63-3. That's how you handle it. Okay, whatever. So I don't agree with how money has taken over, and it's taken away a lot of the importance of the game, a lot of the teamwork. And like I say, guys, for years now, literally years, have been stepping away and basically no longer like removing their own ineligibility or eligibility to preserve themselves for the draft process so as not to get hurt and go through all of that. So when these people just come out and make these blanket statements and they keep on referring to them as kids, they're not kids. They're young men. They're young men. Please don't refer to them as kids. I understand the point of view. I understand what you're trying to say, but they're young men and they should be referred to as such. They're not necessarily grown adults like me at 53, but they're not kids. Kids are like 8, 10, 12, 14, maybe even 16. They're grown men. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Iowa State and Kansas players declined bowl invitations. Yes, sir. I believe it's 5 teams total now withdrew. And that was as of yesterday. I didn't even see it today. There may have been others. And again, this is the system we are in now. This is how money changed everything. I don't know how you fix that either. I really don't. But the importance of bowl games that are not college football playoff related bowl games, like Cotton, Orange, Rose, Sugar, like you see on the screen there, Fiesta, Peach Bowls, they don't matter. They really never did. It was always the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl. But it used to be, this is way back. I mean, I'm showing my age. It was like the Blue Bonnet Bowl, and it was all these crazy lower bowls when the system was different. You can't go back 25 years and act like that's the system now. It's not. Things have changed. Times have changed. The system has to be changed. It has to be adapted. This is not the last time this will happen. If they don't fix it, it's going to happen again. And the problem is, I don't think that there's a 100% fix to any of this. No matter what move they make, there is always going to be somebody that didn't get in that should get in. To me personally, the teams like James Madison, I don't know so much about Tulane, but James Madison, come on, let's be real. You would have to have Dante Moore go down, his backup, the whole offensive line, I don't know, get the flu for them to even be able to be within 20 points. I mean, you're looking at something like a 55-7 game coming right down the pipe. So, like, what is the point? Now, those schools, I understand you want to have a chance to play for something. People say, oh, they need the money. Same thing when these big schools play the cupcakes in the beginning. It gets very frustrating to watch that. You know, Alabama versus McNeese State or something like that, or Kennesaw State versus Oklahoma or some other power. It's very frustrating to see that, and they get paid to play in those games. Make it so there is enough money that you can disperse it out, you know, equally or some formula, whereas you're not going to put them in this playoff. You want to make like an NIT, like basketball. You've got the NCAA tournament. You've got the NIT. Make a different tournament for them. I don't know what to say, but James Madison doesn't belong in there, and I can argue that Tulane doesn't belong in there. Miami and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to win that game. Ole Miss and Tulane, even without Lane Kiffin and everything that's going on there, they're going to beat Tulane. Alabama and Oklahoma, that's actually going to be a pretty tight game. We'll see if Jan Miller comes back. And then Oregon's just going to blitz JMU. And even if Miami was to beat Texas A&M, although, all right, I'm going to get yelled at for this. Okay, I'm going to get hit for this, especially on the replays when I cut this up and I put it everywhere. I'm not a big fan of Ohio State. I don't think that they're the best team. I actually think Indiana's a better team than Ohio State. We saw that a couple days ago, and I don't think that that was a fluke. I actually think Texas Tech is probably a better team than Ohio State. I think Georgia's a better team than Ohio State. But nevertheless, if Miami beats Texas A&M, I don't think Miami has a chance in heck to beat Ohio State. I don't see it. Ole Miss and Tulane, the winner, they're not beating Georgia. Texas Tech and Oregon, that'd be a heck of a game. That'd be one of the best games of this entire playoff. And then Ole Miss, Indiana against Alabama or Oklahoma, you know, it'd be a pretty good game. But Indiana's very, very, very good, and they got a chance now to get their other wide receiver back. Tulane and Ole Miss. Ole Miss has no shot against Georgia, and they didn't have a shot even if Lane Kiffin was there. And any Ole Miss fans here, I'm sorry, Lane Kiffin, that team operates better with him than who has replaced him. It's point blank period. You can look on my YouTube. I recently put some things out about Lane Kiffin. I don't like all the things and the way he does things, but everybody's upset at the guy. If you think he's not all this and you don't think he's a very good coach, what are you so upset that he's gone for? You take LSU's job over Ole Miss 100 out of 100. Sorry if there are Ole Miss guys here. It's just a bigger job. The best athlete in the world, if they have to choose, let's say money's equal. Let's say NIL money is equal, and I'm going to give you $2 million, and you're going to give $2 million or $5 million or $10 million, whatever the number is. They're picking, unless they're central to that area, have a family, a friend, something in their lineage that says that they need to be go to Ole Miss because it means something in their family tradition. That aside, you're going to go to LSU or you're going to go to Ole Miss. You're going to LSU. And expect him to be in here very, very soon, if not next year, the year after, and Lane Kiffin will win at least 2 national titles. Save this video, and if you know anything about my background and these predictions, I'll take my track record. So anyways, it's a disaster. Notre Dame got jobbed to close this part out. I appreciate what he's done, what they've done. In order to get this to change, you need one of the biggest guys on the block, one of the biggest names and brands in all of sports with the power of a Notre Dame to enact and create change and to shake up ESPN and to shake up the powers to be that say, look, we're not going to tolerate this, and we're strong enough and powerful enough to get enough backers behind us and enough other universities that don't agree with what just happened. Because make no mistake about it, it happened to Notre Dame this time. It can happen to it has happened to somebody else. It can be somebody else and somebody else. The system is broken. It's flawed. Going from 12 teams to 16 teams is not going to change it. Again, I don't know what the fix is, but all those guys in the room, I don't know, maybe they're the wrong guys. Something's not right. And a lot of it is politics. And unfortunately, in life, whether it's a job, whether it's a girlfriend, whether all sorts of things, politics whatever it has to do with, it doesn't have to be politics as in a president or a candidate versus another candidate. There's politics in everything in this world, and there's politics involved in having Alabama. And I personally, this is my opinion only, it has nothing to do with this situation. I believe the SEC is the best conference in the world. And I grew up in Big Ten country, which, can they please change their name? Isn't there 18 teams now in the Big Ten? Can we change that name? Please. SEC is where it's at. I'll take that to my grave. People, Ohio State. Look what Ohio State did. Michigan won. Well, welcome to the party, pal. You haven't, Michigan, when's the last time you won? 1997 against Ryan Leaf? Ohio State, prior to this year, when's the last time last year, when's the last time you won? So I don't even want to go down that road because I won't stop talking about it. But that thing's a mess, and it's going to be talked about for quite some time now. All right, let me jump in here. I'm gonna play this clip. I created this video, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago. It's about the Baltimore Ravens, and specifically about John Harbaugh and how they let Mike Macdonald get out of town. Let me play that for you right now. Eric DeCosta took over. You had John Harbaugh in place. I think he's something like, 15, 16 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's been the head. Now to the Baltimore Ravens. Ozzie Newsome built an incredible franchise. And then Eric DeCosta took over. You had John Harbaugh in place. I think he's something like, 15, 16 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's been the head coach. Listen to me, folks. John Harbaugh is 63 years old. They are toiling right now. They are spinning their wheels in Baltimore. They are nowhere near winning it all, in my opinion. They are nowhere in even close to legitimately competing for a Super Bowl. What did they do? They let Mike Macdonald go, who's 38 years old, 25 years younger than John Harbaugh, is probably going to be one of the next great coaches of the next 20 years. You had him in your building and you let him go. How in the world did you let him go? I like John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh's he's great football guy. He's a great guy. He's a leader of men. He's all of those things. But it is not working. And I think it's done. It's archaic. How did Mike Macdonald get so successful so fast? He's really, really, really good. Yeah, so that was 3 days ago, I think, 3, maybe 4 days ago, prior to yesterday's game against the Steelers. And it just further validated my opinion that organization, that team is a mess. You know, if you're a Lamar Jackson fan, you might want to block your ears. I've been saying this for years, for maybe ever in his entire career. I have never had him inside of the top 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't now. I have guys like, and this is prior to, just the last 2 games where he has played better. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, some of the regular guys that we all know, Joe Burrow, and I have Justin Herbert there, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. The experiment with Lamar Jackson is over. It needs to be over. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens, and it's probably a little bit too late, he doesn't have the same value now as he did, say, 2 or 3 years ago. Why they continue to do things the same way, I don't know. As I said in that particular piece, I was a massive Ozzie Newsome fan. Ozzie built that whole thing and took that franchise from basically nothing and built it into something, and he built it all the way through, right? The staff, everything all the way through. John Harbaugh's been there for 18 years. It's enough already. It's like Mike Tomlin, who's also 18 years in Pittsburgh. It can run its course. Time for a change, time for a new voice, and I think out the door together needs to go Lamar Jackson and him. And to Eric DeCosta, how irresponsible do you have to be as a general manager to not give the guy any weapons on the outside? This is mind-boggling. the Odell Beckhams, the washed version of Odell Beckham, the Rashad Bateman's, the DeAndre Hopkins washed, Zay Flowers, who's a slot, a number 2 at best, but he's really a slot guy, is playing your number 1. Everything goes through the tight ends. And Isaiah Likely, by the way, is a better tight end than Mark Andrews, but for some reason, he's still running second fiddle to Mark Andrews, and they just gave Mark Andrews a whole bunch of money. There's just things going on that just don't make a whole lot of sense. And if you want to be a plotting team, then keep doing what you're doing. If you want to be explosive and you want to give yourself the max chance to win, you've got to do something different because it's not working. Pittsburgh is a horrific defense and an offense that was in shambles, basically. I understand Rodgers was out that one game, but they're not even on the same page. Rodgers and his wide receivers are arguing with each other basically all week, and he's like, they need to get in the film room. And they can't figure it out, and suddenly they just heal. They get better, and they heal overnight because they're playing the Baltimore Ravens. And not only that, they're playing in Baltimore. And you got embarrassed. You were never in the game, basically. The score might have looked relatively close at a point or two in a game, but it was not in like serious jeopardy. I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers are a mid team, and you're struggling to hang with a mid team. So it's like, if I'm a Baltimore fan, if I'm anywhere Maryland, if I'm anywhere around there, man, I'm hating the NFL right now because my team's got no shot. 0 shot. So that's my thoughts on Baltimore. Get rid of John Harbaugh. And let me finish with this as it relates to that video. Mike McDonald, John Schneider matters, the GM for Seattle. How do you turn the corner from Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Pete Carroll? You basically have one or so down year, semi-down year, and you're right back into it. You have one of the best records in the NFL. You put this thing together on the fly. I've always been a huge fan of John Schneider. Huge John Schneider guy. Les Snead, the same thing. Yes, sir. It's not coaching. It's front office problem, poor choices in the draft and free agency. No question about it. I agree with you there. But John Harbaugh does a lot of boneheaded things. Andy Reid has done some boneheaded things lately too, so the same goes for him. And sometimes it's just like Jim Harbaugh was like this too. It's one of the reasons why he lost at Michigan for 5-6 years. He was so stubborn. He was unwilling to evolve, to change. And sometimes you just think that your way is best. And it caught up with Jim Harbaugh, and it's caught up now with John Harbaugh. The day has passed. The time has passed. But typically I'm in full agreement with you that it comes from the front office. If you know anything about my background, I always speak sports in 3 elements. Most people are from a fan and a fanatic standpoint. I obviously born and raised a fanatic, but I have 7 championships as a basketball coach, 9 years coaching, and 35 years as an entrepreneur. So I understand the fan side, the coaching side. Hey, what's going on, 1224? The fan side, the coaching side, and the business side of it. And if you're not making the appropriate decisions, as Avery said, from a front office perspective and putting the right people in place, it doesn't matter. Like Patrick Mahomes and all those weapons on Kansas City, if you don't have an offensive line, and that's not necessarily the front office, that's injury, much like the Lions too. You lose Frank Ragnow, you lose 3/5 of your offensive line. I mean, you got to have depth. But even our Lions, the depth has been bad. Bad as in it's been injured. You're on your 3rd guys. I mean, not a lot of people can do a lot with that. And you see it against a quality defense like the Texans last night. It's great for the NFL teams like Jacksonville and Houston are on the rise. Yes, they are. And I do like that. And I'm a huge DeMeco Ryans guy. Yes, I talked about the college football playoff. Yes, you have to catch the replay on that 1224. So, yeah, Baltimore's got some problems. All right, Shedeur Sanders. For those of you who don't know me, don't know my background, I am the only person in the world who accurately on January 19th picked Shedeur Sanders as a 5th-round draft pick. I'm not a fan of Shedeur Sanders. I was not a fan of his game at Colorado or Jackson State for that matter. Sorry if there are Shedeur fans here. I think he's always been a street ball player. Get him to scramble around. He can make some things happen that way, but to stand in and go through his reads and progressions and distribute the ball on time where he needs to against quality opponents, I don't think we're going to see it. I don't think we've seen it so far. I see people going crazy all over social today, and here we go again. They did it. They did it after the Raiders game. Then after the Niners, it was crickets. Now after Tennessee, it's back to he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's the best quarterback in the draft, and all this type of stuff. Like, just a reminder, you play Tennessee and the Raiders with a combined record of 4-22. And I'm not talking about 4-22 as in April 22nd. I literally had to double check, make sure, man, this doesn't even sound right. 2-11 teams he played in 3 weeks, sandwiched around the now 9-4 San Francisco 49ers. And we saw what that result was. Can we please hold off on he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, or he's the worst thing since mildew sliced bread, and let him actually play somebody? Because the one time he didn't do good. And I'm not a fan of the Bears, and I'm the biggest fan. I said this earlier on social. People know my history with Shedeur. Probably really weird to hear me say this, but I am the biggest Shedeur Sanders fan in the world for 1 week and 1 week only this week, because they play Chicago. And the Lions right now are looking up at Chicago. We Lions fans are so happy to see, and I'll talk about Ben Johnson in a moment. We're so excited to see Green Bay, who we've already lost to twice, so it's irrelevant what Green Bay does. We're not catching them. And they took care of Chicago yesterday. Makes it really good for us. And who does Shedeur Sanders play next week? The Chicago Bears in Chicago. That's not a terrific defense. Again, middle of the road defense. That's not a top defense, but that's a better defense than Tennessee, and it's a better defense than the Vegas Raiders. So let's let it play out. And I think he's got some tougher competition after that. Let's let it play out. Everybody just relax. I don't know why everybody's got to get so emotional and say the guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, you might say, hey, why are you contradicting yourself? You said on January 19th that he's a fifth-round pick, which came true. You then said on the draft, I backed all of that up. And I also said that I felt that he would be out of the NFL in 3 years, partly because I don't think he's going to be a star starter in the NFL, and partly because I think his talents off of the field are greater than his talents on the field. That's my reasoning for those of you who don't know me. I still think that can happen. He's never going to take a backup role from anybody. So if that's ever on the table again for Cleveland or anybody else, it's not going to happen. And just remember, guys, please remember, and you've seen it now, each game he's played, he's a marked man in the league because of the way that he conducted himself. And no matter what he does from here on out, it would take years, many, many years of him acting appropriately and not acting like that to get people to lay off. But this happened with Johnny Manziel too, even Ryan Leaf, but more so Johnny Manziel. Everybody wanted to basically hurt him. And I think there's a lot of people that want to just plant Shedeur Sanders. He has set this up himself. So we shall see. But for this week, if 1224, if you see me posting stuff about Shedeur Sanders and me being his biggest fan, that's why, because he's playing Chicago this week, and we need him to rise up. We need him to rise up and throw for about 450 and, 5 touchdowns. And we need Myles Garrett to break the sack record this week and take out the Bears. And then we are tied with them and still have one game left. And we already are at one game in hand. We've beaten them. So that would put us in a great position. So I am Shedeur Sanders' biggest fan right now. All right, so Ben Johnson. And people misunderstand me on this. I'm telling you, I don't like the word I'm misunderstood. How many times can we watch Dylan Gabriel throw 5 yards out? You have to add excitement to the offense. He fills the seats and brings attention to Cleveland besides Myles Garrett. If I'm not mistaken, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch the whole game, but if I'm not mistaken, he threw about a 5 or 6 yard out to Judkins, and he took it, 60? And he did it like the week to Sampson, I think it was, the week before or 2 weeks before. He's doing the same thing. He's making more throws down the field. I got you. I see that. The one where he rolled out last week and hit him. I got it. But let's watch what he does against the good teams. Let's see what that is. Let's just reserve judgment until we see that, and then make a and we need a top draft pick. So no, let's see that play out, guys. Seriously. All right. So Ben Johnson, and people, as I was saying, are starting to say, people misunderstand me on this. I was not a big Ben Johnson guy when he was with the Lions. So you can take my homerism out of the equation here. I didn't like how tricked up it was. Speaking of tricked up, one more thing on Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. I saw somebody write this today and said, "Oh, they pulled Shedeur out of the game down on the goal line," and I think he was referring to the 2-point conversion. And we know exactly what's going on over there. All right. Here's where I'm going to stick up for Shedeur Sanders, because I don't like when teams do this. If you can't figure out a way to have your quarterback, whoever he is, if you can't figure out a way to have your quarterback on the 5, the 4, the 3, the 15, 18, whatever yard line it is, red zone, and you're going to all this tricked up stuff, I can maybe see down on the goal line, not even Hurts, but a guy like Mark Andrews who does it with Baltimore, or Travis Kelce's done it with Kansas City. When you got all that beef in there and you need like a half a yard or 1 yard, the 2-point conversions from the 2-yard line. You're taking your quarterback out and you're doing all this tricked up stuff. That reminded me of Ben Johnson that does all this dumbass shit. You need a 2-point conversion. You need to tie the game, and you're running some tricked up thing with guys trying to make plays that is not what they order. I don't care if you practiced it, please. You're not running that in game type situations with everything on the line. It's not like you're doing that and then you're going to execute it to perfection. And what needed to happen in that play, you need to have every single thing go right in order for the play to go right. Like every block, the flow of the defense, the pursuit, everything to go right. So from that perspective, Shedeur Sanders should not have been off the field. You give him an option to either to roll with the ball, leave the decision in his hands, to either throw it or run it in. You don't do this tricked up stuff. And so this is not just the Stefanski thing, because everybody's like out, to get him on this. So many teams are doing this, and I don't agree with it. Literally, these guys work all week long on trying to figure out ways to score from inside the 20. And there's like kind of a million ways you can do it, especially with a mobile quarterback like him, like a Mahomes or like an Allen. And I don't mean to put him on that level. He's not on that level, but he's not Joe Flacco. He's mobile. Now he's young and he makes, holds on to the ball. And he doesn't make good decisions sometimes in situations like that. But I will take Shedeur Sanders in that moment versus trying to trick up and throw the ball back the other way. And hoping, you're giving the ball to Judkins and you're saying, you make the decision, run it or throw it. What? It just doesn't. Oh, he's bigger. He's a running back. Okay, I get it. But he's not a passer of the ball. But to Stefanski's defense, he's not the only one. A lot of guys are doing this. The Lions did it 3-4 weeks ago. They line up Goff as a wide receiver, and you're throwing the ball to your quarterback. And I just wanted to scream, you have one of the best tandem of running backs. You got one of the best wide receiving cores, and I know you're down Laporta and you're down an offensive line. But you're going to put Goff out there? Seriously? Everything's got to go perfect. Jared Goff's an athlete. I get he's not fleet of foot. He's an athlete. He can catch the ball. But in that situation, a million things can go wrong. Run David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs up the middle. Yesterday, you'd have a better chance of winning at running Judkins up the middle if you didn't want to put the ball in Sanders' hands like on a rollout. That's stupidity. And coaches overthink. And that's one thing that I tried to do as a coach for a long time. Yeah, you got to know the analytics. Yeah, you have to understand tendencies. Yeah, you have to be creative. You can't be stagnant. You got to run something they don't think you're going to run. But to the degree that you're going to make that decision and put the ball in somebody's hands to do something that they never do or have done once or twice, it makes no sense to me. So that's crazy. But back to Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson shot his mouth as soon as he left the Lions, to be honest. Shot his mouth wouldn't mention Jared Goff by name. He handled his exit from Detroit poorly. He goes and does press conferences. He says, I look forward to beating Matt LaFleur 2 times a year. Opened his mouth, and a lot of people went crazy when he did that. People in Chicago were loving that. Oh, he's confident. He's confident. He's this. He's this. And you got your ass handed to you yesterday, buddy. How you feeling now? Oh, and by the way, a week ago, you took your shirt off in the locker room like a little kid. I like the enthusiasm. I understand the thought process behind it. But seriously, bro, you're a head coach. And you're taking your shirt off because maybe you want to show people that you're in pretty good shape. I don't know. And that you can flex and scream and act like a maniac and show emotion. And maybe they'll respect you more because you got them to get excited and see their coach doing that. I don't know. I know my guys, they'd always get excited when the older coach did something. Well, Ben Johnson's not that old. I was a lot older than my players. But it's like there is this thing where the players want to see the coach do something. You know, I was a great shooter. And even 42, 44, 46 years old, man, it could drain the ball from anywhere. I was in much better shape 8-10 years ago, but you get my point. So players like to see a coach kind of come out of that serious shell. So I understand the thought process. But I look forward to beating Matt LaFleur twice a year, to taking your shirt off yesterday, to getting your ass basically handed to you in Lambeau Field yesterday, putting yourself squarely again on everybody's radar, and still you can't figure out to get your quarterback to make the right decisions, Mr. Offensive Genius. DJ Moore is wide open on that play, and Caleb Williams is throwing it up in harm's way. Watch the replay if you haven't seen it. DJ Moore sneaks right out. Caleb Williams is rolling out. Defense is flowing. I think it was the linebacker steps back because he feels like the ball's going in the end zone, and there's DJ Moore wide open, and he doesn't throw it to him. Terrible decision maker Caleb Williams still is. The Ben Johnson factor hasn't made that much of a difference. Let me tell you this about the Bears. The Bears have 4 games left. I see them losing 3 of 4. I think you may think this is crazy. I don't, because I know Caleb Williams. 2 days before the 2024 draft, I said that Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback in that draft, and it was not Caleb Williams. I would have never taken Caleb Williams number 1. The guy's got something going on in his head that it doesn't compute like everybody else. He does some things, he escapes and makes some crazy plays, but when you need him to make a throw, he doesn't seem to be able to make that throw. If you look at his accuracy over the last 10 games, or his completion percentage over the last 10 games, it's alarming. There's 47, 52, 56, 54, 59, 58. It's like, come on, man. Ben Johnson sets up the offense simplistic enough for you to make simple throws behind, above, over, under, in the dirt. We place the genius titles on coaches too fast. Yeah. Like, a guy never head coached in his life, right? You can think all you want on potential, but until you go out there and until you do it and prove it, you just can't. Like, even Mike McDonald, everybody and their brother thought that he was an amazing candidate. And the other Mike McDaniels, this ingenious mind to do things offensively does not make him a head coach. And I still don't think he's a head coach. Mike McDaniel, I'm talking about. Mike McDaniel is an offensive coordinator. He's not a head football coach. And I'm still not convinced that Ben Johnson is a head football coach. I'm convinced that he is a coordinator. There's a huge difference. And if you look on my YouTube, you'll see I've got a lot of videos that talk about that very thing. So here's what's going on for the Bears the rest of the way. They got Cleveland this upcoming Sunday. Then you're playing the Packers again, this time at home. Then you play the 49ers, and then you play the Lions in a flex game in the final game of the season. And why do you think that game was flexed 3-4 weeks ago? Because you can see it developing as to what might happen. And I think they lose 3 out of 4. They end up at 10-7, and they miss the playoffs. Now, you guys who are watching right now, if you're a Chicago fan, or if it was your coach on any team, and he acted like that, taking his shirt off, I'm going to beat Matt LaFleur twice, the way he acts. He tries so hard to be Dan Campbell. Pretty hard to be Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is Dan Campbell. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, and Ben Johnson's trying to break down post-game game balls and do it the same way. It's like it's just forced. It doesn't seem natural. It seems tricked up, like I'm doing this for the cameras. If that's your team, how would you feel right about now if your coach was acting that way? And I can see it, and I've seen it all year. Look at who they've beaten. They beat one team, and it was basically one team. It was the Eagles. Everything fell just right against the other teams. They played Dallas at their worst. There's all sorts of games in there in the background, and they got destroyed by the Lions 52-17 or whatever it was, 52-19, 21, something like that. Look at it. You got to play the best and beat the best. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. I don't mean to go Ric Flair on you guys, but it's true. If Shedeur Sanders wants to be known as somebody to take seriously, you can't play 2-11 and 2-11 in 2 out of your 3 games. You've got to go play very good teams, and you've got to do it several times over a body of work to show that it's legitimate. And then after you do it once, you got to do it again. After you do it, let's say for the rest of the year, you got to come back and do it. Yeah, exactly. Woo! You got to come back next year and do it again. And then you start to talk about if you've arrived or not. And then after you establish, and I'm not a big fan of anybody, and Jackson Dart, if you don't know about me, I predicted Jackson Dart to a T. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer, better than Eli Manning. I yelling at Brian Dable and the Giants to start him from day one. Insane quarterback. Just chill out a little bit on some of his stuff. With the jewelry and some of the motions. I think we all know what you can do. Let the merit speak before you start running. But even if you wanted to start talking that way, let's see it overdone over a period of time. Let's see a body of work earn the right to kind of do some of the swag and all that type of stuff. That's one of the reasons, it's the main reason why I don't like Shedeur Sanders, is because of everything that comes with him. And as a quarterback, you cannot have that. And the difference between him and Jackson Dart in terms of the way they act, now he's doing a better job now in defense of Shedeur. He's doing a better job with the media. The media is trying to trick him up and trying to get him to say something because they have something to write. I got lots of videos out there too. That's wrong. I don't think they should do that to anybody, and they shouldn't do it to him. They're looking for something to say stupid, and something goes viral so they can put it in their column, and they could be the one who asked the question and gain clicks and popularity because of that. I don't agree with that. I don't even think they should be interviewed, to tell you the truth. These stupid questions. So what do you think of Kevin Stefanski? What do you think he's going to say? Seriously. What do you think of Kevin Stefanski's play calling? Even if he doesn't agree with it, which I don't think he does, is he going to come up there and say, yeah, Kevin Stefanski sucks? I'm lobbying behind the scenes, with Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry to get rid of him. You think he's going to say that? Maybe they thought he was such a wild card for so long that he would say anything. Somebody got a hold of him, probably PR people, and he's being coached in terms of how to keep his emotions in check in the pressers. He's doing a better job of that, but he seems like he always wants to revert back to kind of who he is. We'll see how it all PBs is buns, bad takes. Yeah, okay, Nico. Hey, Nico, I got plenty of takes, man. Plenty of takes out there that have come true. So you should probably do a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of research. You'd be amazed at what you find. All right, guys, before I close out, let me pull this back up here. Oops, wrong one. Where did it go? Is it completely gone now? Yeah, so here it is, 22-9 run for you. If you haven't followed on X, if you're on YouTube or you are on Facebook right now, on X at PB Sports Talk, hit the QR code there with your camera. That'll take you right to YouTube. Smash the subscribe button. All the picks, all the information, all the material, all the new things that pop up, they go on to X first. YouTube is clearly in the second position. Obviously, I do things like this, and then it gets split up, parsed out, and it'll go on YouTube, it'll go on X. But in terms of picks and things like that, the writing, the takes, all of that type of stuff, it goes up on X. So hopefully you guys will follow, subscribe, share with others. Had a pretty decent crowd today. Appreciate you guys joining. And everybody have a great rest of the day. Picks will drop 6 o'clock for tonight for Eagles and Chargers. I'll have a 6-pack for you. Hopefully we can go 5-1 and an outside shot at 6-0. That'd be nice. I'd love to be able to help you guys do that. So I say this all the time. I'll say it again. Hug someone, hold someone, love someone. Life is short. You guys have a great rest of your Monday and a great week ahead. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.